first month of Trump's term, Elon Musk and his hacks have already demanded access to our Social Security data, schemed their way into the U.S. Treasury payment system.
Did you notice something strange about Trump's reaction to the Lincoln Project's latest ad? While he dismisses most criticism, these particular attacks sent him into a public spiral. The reason reveals everything about his deepest insecurities. In the next few minutes, I'll break down the psychological warfare behind the Heroes ad, analyze Trump's self-destructive response, and explain why satire from former allies hurts him more than any Democratic attack ever could. The evidence suggests these ads aren't just annoying Trump, they're dismantling his carefully constructed image. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Have you noticed how Trump completely falls apart when he's the butt of a joke? The Lincoln Project certainly has, and they're wielding humor like a precision weapon against a man who can dish it out, but absolutely cannot take it.
Look at every dollar you made or deduction you claimed. It's creepy, it's weird, it's illegal. Trump bragged about wanting to use the IRS for revenge, inside or out for the IRS leaking them. But Musk insists he gets to paw through your taxes. Look at every dollar you made or deduction you claimed. It's creepy, it's weird, it's illegal.
Their latest Heroes ad isn't just a clever piece of political satire, it's psychological warfare engineered by people who once worked alongside Trump and know exactly which buttons to push. Instead of attacking his policies with complex arguments, they've created something far more devastating, a simple visual joke that portrays Trump, Marco Rubio, Tulsi Gabbard, and J.D. Vance as Soviet-style Russian heroes. What makes this approach so brilliant is its simplicity. The ad doesn't bog viewers down with complicated foreign policy discussions or lengthy explanations of Russian interference. Instead, it lets the satirical imagery speak for itself, creating an immediate visual connection in viewers' minds that's far more powerful than any detailed argument could be. The psychological genius here becomes clear when you understand how humor affects our information processing. When an accusation comes wrapped in a joke, it slips past our usual skepticism. The Lincoln Project knows that when viewers laugh at Trump's Russian connections, that association sticks in their memory far more effectively than if they had presented the same information in a serious news format. This strategy targets what psychologists identify as Trump's narcissistic vulnerability. For someone whose entire identity revolves around projecting strength and commanding respect, public mockery isn't just annoying, it's existentially threatening. While Trump might brush off accusations of corruption or incompetence, being laughed at strikes at the very core of how he sees himself. Rick Wilson, one of the Lincoln Project's co-founders, revealed the strategic calculation behind these provocative ads. Every second Trump is distracted by a Lincoln Project ad, he's not campaigning against Joe Biden. These former Republican insiders aren't just throwing random punches. They're deliberately baiting Trump into self-destructive rage cycles that derail his messaging and expose his instability. The Heroes ad exploits Trump's desperate need to control public perception of his relationship with Russia, a topic he spent years trying to downplay. By turning this sensitive issue into a punchline, the Lincoln Project creates a no-win situation. Trump can either remain silent, allowing the joke to stand, or respond angrily, validating the portrayal of him as unstable. Faced with this trap, Trump predictably chose the path of self-destruction. Have you ever wondered why a billionaire former president with a massive platform would amplify a political attack ad that might otherwise have reached only a fraction of voters? The answer reveals not just a tactical blunder, but a psychological Achilles heel that the Lincoln Project exploits with surgical precision. Most politicians develop thick skin. They learn to deflect criticism with practiced ease, especially on policy matters. Trump, however, operates on a different frequency entirely. When the Lincoln Project released their Heroes ad, they weren't just hoping for a reaction, they were banking on it with almost mathematical certainty. What followed was exactly what these former Republican strategists had calculated, a middle-of-the-night meltdown that spoke volumes. At 1 a.m., while Americans slept, Trump furiously typed out tweets calling Lincoln Project members losers in all caps. This wasn't merely a president disagreeing with critics, it was a man consumed by wounded pride, unable to resist responding even at the cost of his own dignity. The timing couldn't have been more revealing. While presidents traditionally focus on governance challenges and reserve media responses for daylight hours, Trump's 1 a.m. Twitter barrage painted a picture of someone so wounded by mockery that sleep became impossible. Even more damaging, his outburst confirmed exactly what the Lincoln Project claimed, that he's emotionally volatile and easily manipulated through his own ego. This self-destructive pattern created immediate, measurable consequences. John Weaver, a Lincoln Project co-founder, later remarked with barely disguised satisfaction, "By attacking us, he's become our biggest financial bundler." The numbers tell the story. Following Trump's outbursts, the group reported over 110 million video views in June alone, accompanied by a substantial fundraising surge. What's particularly fascinating is how differently Trump processes various forms of criticism. He routinely shrugs off complex policy critiques, but becomes unhinged when faced with ridicule. The Lincoln Project understands this psychological vulnerability better than any Democratic opponent ever has. Trump would rather be feared than laughed at. When mockery threatens his carefully constructed image of strength, he reacts not as a calculated politician, but as a wounded narcissist. Each time Trump takes their bait, he creates a perpetual motion machine of political damage. His reactions guarantee wider circulation of the very content he wants suppressed, reaching swing voters who might otherwise ignore political ads altogether. Through this vicious cycle, Trump effectively promotes his opponent's message, expanding their reach far beyond their budget. What we're witnessing with the Lincoln Project isn't just effective messaging, it's a masterclass in political combat from those who intimately understand their target. Political experts point out that criticism from insiders often cuts deeper than attacks from opponents. The Lincoln Project's founders aren't just random critics, they're former Republican strategists who know precisely where the vulnerabilities lie and how to exploit them for maximum impact. This insider perspective explains why their approach has been so devastatingly effective. They've pioneered a form of political communication that doesn't just criticize, it fundamentally reshapes the conversation. Looking ahead, analysts predict this fusion of humor and insider knowledge will become increasingly dominant in political discourse, particularly as campaigns struggle to engage younger voters who respond poorly to traditional political messaging. The Lincoln Project has essentially written a new playbook for political opposition. Find your opponent's psychological weak spot, apply pressure with precision, and then watch as they become unwitting participants in their own political demise. In the process, they've demonstrated that sometimes the most powerful critiques come not from across the aisle, but from those who once occupied the same side.